I'm just off the back of running a bunch of retreats at the wave pool here in Melbourne, which were incredible. Some amazing progression from over 150 students over 2 weeks. And I'm looking at my schedule for the rest of the year. I'm going to some pretty epic locations, and I've got about 6 spots left for the rest of the year. So I'm going to invite you, 6 of you, to check out those spots via the link in the description below. And you can submit an application and see if we can work together on your surfing this year in 2023. Let's talk about 4 reasons why you're stuck at the beginner level of surfing. We'll be using lessons and examples from my curriculum within the Beginner Surfers Roadmap. It's my online course designed to take surfers from that very first stage of beginner all the way through to intermediate. You can join almost 10,000 students now, something I'm very excited about, over at thesurfersroadmap.com. Alright, number 1, you turn and paddle for waves too early. In other words, you don't look at the wave long enough before committing to it. So without being able to gather information about the wave that you're trying to catch, it's almost impossible for you to position yourself for the perfect entry into that wave. Subsequently, you find yourself taking off late under the lip, the wave breaking on you, angling in the opposite direction that you should, or missing it altogether. If this is you, say I. A much smarter strategy is to position yourself a little further in than you think you need to, so that you can face the wave as long as possible whilst it comes to you. Now, that mightn't always be an option if you're in the ocean where waves shift and move, but one way that you can adjust your position with still being able to look at the wave is by doing it on a 45-degree angle, either out towards the wave, towards the ocean, or in towards the beach. Basically, all of these directions here, but not the direction behind you, which would require you to turn your back to the wave. More success reading waves means more success catching waves. More success catching waves means more time spent riding waves, and that means progressing faster out of the beginner category. Number 2, you keep surfing out into the flats. This is a big problem. This part of the wave here that we're looking at is the power zone. And basically, if you look at a wave, it increases in speed potential the higher up you go. Out here is what we call the flats. No gravitational or power potential. If we surf out there, we're going to lose speed. If we lose speed, that means we're not going to have any control. If we don't have control, then we can't work on our technique. As we pop up, we want to think about getting us and our surfboard back up to the top third of the wave face, whether that be for a maneuver or something more relevant for beginners, just to start generating speed. Now, to do that, I want you to actually look up to the top part of the wave. As you're paddling in, you can check in with your surfboard, look down the line, check in with your surfboard, look down the line. Once your feet hit the deck of the board, that's your cue to look up to the top and also point there with your leading arm. Now, if we take too long to pop up, or our eyes, and this is probably the most common problem that I see, never leave the front of the surfboard angled out toward the beach, you'll never actually change directions, and you'll simply surf straight forward down the wave into the flats, lose speed, be sucked back up the wave, and then dumped with the lip. Needless to say, this really restricts any sort of progression that might ensue on the wave face, because we never actually quite get there. The prescription for this, once your feet hit the deck of the surfboard, look and point up to the top third of the wave, and then think about jumping up there. Alright, the third reason you're stuck as a beginner surfer is because you refuse or don't have the confidence to surf waves big enough to do maneuvers. This is an interesting one, and yet quite common. Many surfers simply don't have the confidence to tackle waves that are slightly out of their comfort zone, and yet it's these very waves that offer the speed and the space to start learning to do maneuvers. We're approaching the inflection point at which beginner surfers can become intermediate surfers here. So it's a really important step. Essentially, they move from cutting across the wave face, learning speed flow, to trying maneuvers. Now, without enough space on the wave, maneuvers become quite difficult, especially when surfing larger boards like this. Without enough speed as well, maneuvers are harder to commit to because forward momentum, or gyroscopic stability as it's called, creates a more stable surfer. It's just like riding a bike. When you try and turn a corner without moving fast enough, you kind of just tip and fall over. It's the same thing on a surfboard. We need speed to keep us stable and strong. So we need to look at why beginner surfers are lacking confidence here. And this is where some wave catching assistance becomes a big game changer. When I'm coaching surfers at the pool, I sometimes offer them 3 to 4, even more pushes, assisted pushes into waves, simply to help the surfer ascertain some sort of kinesthetic awareness around entering the wave with an appropriate amount of speed and in the right position. And sometimes it's just this little propping up that completely changes a surfer's confidence, because they now know how hard they have to paddle and from where to catch the wave. It's basically just giving them a short-term prop up so that they can learn the confidence by feeling it and then recreate that on their own. If you don't have anyone who can assist you in catching a wave, simply go out in waves that are slightly out of your comfort zone and just observe more advanced surfers than you. Where do they sit? How hard do they paddle? Where are they in relation to the lip? See if you can start to copy that, or at the very least start to visualize yourself doing that. And remember, you can always use my old trick. 3, 2, 1, go. And finally, number 4, it's surfing from the hips instead of the knees. This is what we might term suboptimal loading. And it's when a surfer can't distinguish between compressing into their legs, which is optimal, with hinging at the hips, which is suboptimal. Now, the easiest way to describe this is if I asked you to jump really high in the air, you would naturally load up into the legs, seen visibly by tightening angle at the knee joint and a little bit of a hinge at the hips as well. Now, in surfing, we're using a very similar movement to extend off the bottom of the wave in our bottom turn, or more relevant for beginners, for our speed flow movements. If the surfer isn't bending at the knees and only hinging at the hips, they won't be able to produce enough power to get back up the wave face with any drive or speed. And like I mentioned earlier, it's this drive or speed that makes maneuvers possible. Additionally, this position also creates an awkward weight distribution, which often sees the surfer toppling off to their toe side rail as they try to pop up. The prescription here, once again, is to put your body into the coiled spring position, the active compression where your knees are bent, about to extend or jump, if you will, up the wave face. Well, that's it for me. Those are 4 reasons why you're still stuck in the beginner phase of surfing, and 4 solutions for you to pass through the beginner phase of surfing. This is all based on my Beginner Surfers Roadmap. It's the curriculum helping thousands of surfers smash their surfing goals and progress out of that beginner zone, that beginner category, through to intermediate so they can start working on maneuvers. You can check that out at thesurfersroadmap.com. And don't forget as well, I'm running a bunch of retreats this year around the world. We've got a handful of spots left, and I'd love for one of you guys to come along to that. That'd be super fun. Join me on Instagram as well, at Kale's Broccoli. Other than that, guys, thanks for your patience on this funky little upload schedule at the moment. I will see you soon.